Hi guys, this week we're talking about uh, sharing economy apps. Um, the sharing economy is basically a term used to describe um, mostly app-based companies that rely on people to do small bits of low-paid labor at irregular times for people who need it. So this includes obviously lots of different food delivery companies like Uber Eats, Foodora, Skip the Dishes, obviously Uber, Lyft, which is I think Uber's biggest competitor, and then lots and lots of smaller companies that offer services like coming and doing little sort of chores around your house, like TaskRabbit, which is like if you need help, installing, a bookshelf or hanging art, or there's all kinds of things that people need help with around their house that they can access through to TaskRabbit. And let's see, there's just many different services that are available now, and these sharing apps are really new. They've only been around for about the last 5 to at the very most 7 years, and they've really revolutionized a certain economic sector. Certainly, you know, taxis and like ride sharing is totally new, and you know, the whole taxi industry was kind of turned on its head by it. But also, food delivery is a really big thing, and there's lots and lots of other services as well that rely on these apps that people, access on their phones, and then like a stranger comes and helps them and then leaves, and that person is paid like a small amount of money. So there are some really important kind of moral implications to the sharing economy that I want to talk about, that has to do with the way that these apps encourage the people who work for them to think about their productivity. Um, and so we're going to talk about specifically Uber, which is probably the largest sharing app in the world. So it makes sense to talk about it as an example. But all the things that we're talking about in this lecture can be applied to a lot of other apps that provide other services, because in many cases the conditions are the same. So starting with Uber, it's the world's most popular ride-sharing app. 6 billion rides were given to customers in 2019. It operates in 600 cities across 78 countries, millions of active drivers, 15 million rides a day. It's huge, massive company. And their COO, there's been a lot of kind of turnover in the executive leadership of Uber. There's been controversy around their founder and I believe their CEO, who were found to be like pretty creepy people ultimately. But it was a very competitive and ambitious company from the beginning. And their COO is quoted as saying, "What I want to focus on is creating a culture of efficiency, a zero defect culture." So basically a company where everyone is providing the most productivity, and there's the least amount of wasted time, essentially. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about when we go forward and we look at the way this company really works. So the way that the Uber app works is that if you're a driver, all you have to do is download the app onto your phone and then pass a certain number of requirements to do with your vehicle. And then you can start driving. And then also consumers have the app as well, which is a little bit of a different platform, different interface. Um, and the model gamifies the experience for both riders and drivers. So it turns a basic transaction, which is providing a ride and paying for it, into a kind of game that you're not necessarily aware of, but it does play out through the rating system, so the stars system. Basically, when you're a consumer, when you're a rider, after your ride, you can give a rating to the driver. I think it's on 5 stars. And drivers who have higher ratings have more access to fares. So their app will show more people who are looking for rides at any given time. So they'll have more opportunities to make money. Drivers who have low ratings, who provided poor service for whatever reason, when they open their app, Uber has made it so that they see fewer people who are looking for rides. So they have fewer opportunities to make money. So that creates a kind of built-in game where drivers want to provide a good service so that they can have more access to revenue, opportunities to make money. And this makes sense in a lot of ways in terms of incentivizing good service by Uber drivers, right? Uber wants their drivers to maintain clean vehicles, to be polite, to be efficient, to be good drivers, so that Uber's reputation as a company is good, so that they become known for providing a good service. And so this is how they do that. They incentivize good service through the rating system. And riders also are rated, although I don't think that this still exists. I feel like they may have changed this, although I'm not sure because I don't use Uber. But certainly for the first 5 or so years of Uber's existence, a driver could rate a passenger. So after the passenger got out of the vehicle, the driver could, go into their app and be like, okay, so that was Joe who was just in my car. I'm going to give Joe 3 stars because honestly, Joe was rude to me or whatever. And so passengers with higher ratings, the way the app works is that they don't have to wait as much for a car to come because Uber serves their information to cars that are closer to them when they say, I want a ride, right? So Uber has a lot of really sophisticated ways to reward and punish behavior of riders and drivers. So this is called gamification. Basically, it's these incentivization of certain behavior in order to, create a certain outcome. And it does make it a game for drivers and passengers. And when you gamify work like this, you incentivize certain behavior and discourage others, and it can lead to great things. It can lead to, a really reliable service provided by Uber, and it also can encourage riders to be respectful and nice to Uber drivers, which of course is good for them because Uber drivers are putting themselves at risk by inviting strangers into their cars. And so by incentivizing polite behavior by passengers, it's kind of, in a way, potentially protecting, not protecting is the wrong word. It's not a protection. It's a way of potentially improving the situation for the drivers. But when you gamify people's work, it can also lead to moral hazards. So at this point, I want you to pause and go back to Leia and watch the short video that I posted. It's a little Saturday Night Live skit from a few years ago featuring Aziz Ansari called 5 Stars. So it's a funny little skit, and it illustrates this exactly. It illustrates the way that both drivers and passengers are encouraged to behave. And the thing is that this has actually led drivers and passengers to behave unethically. For example, drivers have been caught paying for 5-star ratings. So basically taking a passenger into their car and saying at the end, like, listen, here's $5 if you'll give me a 5-star rating, that'd be great. Because drivers in many cases depend on their ratings in order to have access to the best fares. Surge pricing, which is what Uber uses when there's a high demand, when there's a lot of people, like say on Saturday night, when we're not in social isolation, an average Saturday night at 10 p.m. or 1 a.m., there are going to be more people looking to get rides on Uber. And so if you're driving during that time, you get access to higher fares. It's the rate is higher, right? It's more expensive, which encourages more drivers to be out working at that time because they'll want to make more money. So if you have a low rating as an Uber driver, Uber is not going to give you access to that surge pricing as much. You're not going to see when you open the app as many cars driving around or people who are waiting for you. Whereas if you have a 5-star rating on a Saturday night, you'll open your app ready to go off and do some driving, and you'll see, oh my gosh, there are tons of people out there, and they're all ready to pay me the high rate. I'm going to go make some cash. So it has led people to, bribe their passengers for 5 stars, and also maybe to do other things that they might not otherwise do, as you see in the video that I shared. So this might seem like not a big deal, right? People are being encouraged to be courteous and respectful and provide good service. What's the big deal? Well, a game is not a game when you're dealing with potential human rights violations. The gamification of Uber has led to situations where people have basically behaved in ways that are dangerous to them. And there are no regulations that Uber has created to protect people's rights. Uber doesn't care how many consecutive hours a driver drives. Uber figures it's up to the driver. They can drive as long as they want to. If they want to make money, who is Uber to stop them? So there are no protections in place, which means that drivers have harmed themselves and put themselves in danger trying to kind of beat this game. People are desperate. The economy is hard, and in many cases, Uber has been one of the only opportunities. Oops, there's my doorbell. Just a minute. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Um, so people should not be blamed for their own desperation, right? When people are really poor, when they're broke, when they need money, they'll work as hard as they can in many cases to make the money that they need to survive. And if companies and employers don't protect workers, workers will work themselves, potentially into situations where they're unsafe, where they could even die. And that's an ethical problem. That's a moral problem that we have to ask ourselves if productivity is worth people, injuring themselves. And most people believe that it's companies' responsibility to put in place at least some basic safety regulations to ensure the safety of their workers. Uber does not believe that. Uber basically says this is a free platform. Anyone can use it. It's open and available to anyone. And once you are started using it, it's up to you. And also, Uber doesn't consider the people who drive for Uber employees. So they are less responsible for their drivers' choices because they don't count them as their employees.